This presentation will provide an introduction to the new web-based community tool for disaster management planning titled CHAMPS, the Community Hazard Assessment and Mitigation Planning System. How did CHAMPS evolve? The story of CHAMPS begins with the Kentucky Division of Emergency Management and Partners, who envisioned a powerful system that could revolutionize disaster planning efforts across multiple sectors. With this collective vision and the support of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the Economic Development Administration, and the Department of Housing and Urban Development, over the course of 5 years, CHAMPS was created, adopted, and is now being utilized throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The dilemma that set the stage for the creation of CHAMPS was based on 4 major issues. 1. Various disaster management functions were occurring in separate silos. 2. Review and communication on projects and funding was occurring at a much slower speed and in many different formats. 3. Gaining access to documentation and data was more time-intensive and less transparent. And 4. Mapping infrastructure in other locations that were readily accessible by multiple users was much more difficult. To put the solution simply, now we can all conduct disaster management planning from one shared portal. KYEM and partners solved the dilemma by creating a web-based system that not only remedied the issues that were faced, but also enhanced the way that we work in the following manner. In this shared system, information can now be accessed from one source and in a transparent manner. Documentation and data is readily accessible even after employee turnover. And lastly, infrastructure, agency information, and project locations all can be mapped and accessed within one system. The purpose of CHAMPS is to serve as a key resource for communities to become more resilient. By utilizing the system, communities can enhance communication across sectors, increase collaboration while developing work products, apply standardized formats, and achieve more efficient management processes overall. The framework of CHAMPS is also based upon the concept of community resilience. Community resilience is a measure of a community's ability to utilize resources to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters. A resilient community demonstrates an understanding of the level of risk and capabilities to various hazards and threats, then takes actions to mitigate or lessen the impacts of a hazardous event, therefore reducing loss of life and property when an event does occur. Keeping in mind the need to understand risk and mitigate from loss, CHAMPS is composed of 5 different yet interdependent modules. Within CHAMPS, communities can manage planning efforts in real time, from recording hazards and threats in the community profile to conducting assessments as the basis for plan development. Then once risk is understood, steps can be taken toward mitigating losses by identifying and managing projects that may require search and application for external funding to implement. Before we take a scenario-based example to show you just how CHAMPS works, it's important to emphasize how the system provides the setting for streamlined and tracked interaction among interdependent agencies. Within CHAMPS, communication will drastically improve, vertically among federal, state, regional, and local partners, and horizontally among public agencies, including local emergency planning committees, all in collaboration with private, nonprofit, and other community organizations. Within the modules of CHAMPS, communities can improve disaster management processes by providing the centralized location for planning to occur. As the flow diagram here indicates, each of the modules falls within a certain sequence to help communities work toward resiliency. Now, to demonstrate the flow of the system, let's consider a disaster scenario. If a disaster hits and damage is experienced, you will record occurrence and loss data here in predefined forms within the community profile. Your community's profile tells a story of disaster management. What can you do with your community profile? First, multiple users can input, store, and access information on local capacities, losses, and occurrences. Capacities are those resources, whether human or other capital, that help a community manage hazard events. Information on occurrences, losses, Hazards and threats and event data are also stored here to help build your community's risk profile. Community links are considered those organizations inside or outside of your community that you may need to contact for a variety of different purposes. In this submodule, you can store and access point of contact and website information. Infrastructure information can also be stored within CHAMPS, such as critical facilities, utilities, bridges, and other important structures. Once entered, cost of construction and replacement value can be accessed, as well as the location and point of contact information. With geographic location recorded, infrastructure can later be mapped to show locations and dependencies on other infrastructure. Like community links, the Civic Agencies submodule allows you to store contact information on organizations such as clubs and volunteer agencies. In addition to this information, descriptions and capabilities will be recorded and mapped so that in a time of need, emergency responders can seek support in an informed manner. In the Standard Requirements submodule, keep track of the status of various requirements that need to be met, whether it's developing a plan, conducting an assessment, or completing a training. And last but certainly not least, keep track of significant events and hazards and threats by recording occurrence and loss information to build your community's risk profile. Now that you see what you can do in the community profile, let's review the benefits. Here you can track and record data that will be needed to conduct thorough assessments, plans, and for use in calculating cost-benefit at the time of funding application. Create a one-stop shop for accessing community contact, civic agency, and infrastructure information. And lastly, in its entirety, use the community profile as a planning tool to prioritize and keep track of requirements that need to be met. Once you've utilized the community profile during and after the disaster event, this data will be used to calculate and analyze your community's vulnerabilities to a hazard and threat in the Assessments module. In the Assessments module, you'll have the ability to create and apply standardized templates across multiple localities for completion. Once the template is created, forms can be completed by localities, then submitted to the state or other authorities for review and scoring. Standardization is one of the major benefits of utilizing CHAMPS. In the template builder, you can develop and publish templates for plans, assessments, and project management. Also, share and reuse templates across various programs. Now let's review the benefits of conducting assessments in CHAMPS. First, you'll experience an ease in completing assessments through a structured and guided step-by-step process. By using standardized approaches, increased efficiency will result, and you'll have the ability to access and reference assessments at any time, even after employee turnover has occurred. Lastly, track your community's progress status in the areas of health, risk, resiliency, and recovery, just to name a few. Revisiting our scenario and following our initial flow diagram, once you've created your assessments, the results will be necessary to incorporate into the plans that will be developed. Like the previous module, in plans you'll be able to create plan templates to be completed in a standardized fashion. Then authors can complete those standardized plans through a guided step-by-step process. The benefits of developing plans in the Plans module are increased efficiency and the opportunity to develop plans with the help of multiple contributors. Then the ability to access and reference completed plans at any time, even after employee turnover has occurred. As mentioned before, one of the unique and most beneficial aspects of CHAMPS is the ability to add contributors to assessments, plans, or projects that your agency is participating in. Contributors can play multiple roles, from editing at the local level to reviewing, approving, and publishing at the state level. This function allows for collaborative planning to occur on centrally located documents. Now back to our scenario. After projects have been identified and listed in your plans, you can seek out funding to proactively submit mitigation action forms, formerly known as letters of intent, before the next disaster hits. The funding module provides information on funding opportunities and eligibility, currently containing information on funding available under FEMA's Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. Local representatives can access funding availability that is transparent, as well as search for other external funding opportunities in the Grants Overview submodule. Following a disaster event, reference the disaster data sheet and thresholds information to see if your county is eligible for funding. View Hazard Mitigation Grant Program funding splits to see what percentage of funds are being allocated to each fund type. So what are the benefits of seeking funding in CHAMPS? Those who are considering external funding for pre-identified projects can access state and federal disaster declaration information, with easy access to search for grant opportunities through a grant clearinghouse, ultimately providing localities with increased transparency of funding availability. Also, another key benefit of CHAMPS in the funding module is the enhanced communication that can occur through the Briefings Calendar application. In Briefings, users can view and add postings for disaster-related and project-related meetings. Each posting provides a link to view the meeting location, associated disaster declaration details, organizer contact information, and any additional meeting materials for download. Going back to our scenario, once you've identified the funding source, you can apply for funds to complete your project. Then, once your project is funded, manage important milestones and tasks from start to completion in the projects module. In the projects module, you can submit mitigation action forms to be considered for funding. Then, once your project has been funded, utilize the standardized tracking tool and templates to report and review project milestones. Using a guided process, proactively submit a mitigation action form for a project that you are seeking funds for. What are the benefits of managing your projects in CHAMPS? You will gain the ability to submit early and proactive funding applications for pre-identified projects. Then, once funding is secured, manage projects in a well-coordinated and step-by-step manner, while allowing for reviewers at the state level to track project progress. Then finally, the completion of mitigation projects and programs will then demonstrate progress toward reducing risk and working toward community resilience. As we described with each of the module introductions, the CHAMPS winning points that will benefit communities most is increased efficiency, enhanced coordination, better communication, centralized access to information, streamlined processes, and integrated management. As Thomas Jefferson once said, an informed citizenry is the only true repository of the public will. While the Commonwealth of Kentucky works to enhance disaster management processes with the adoption of CHAMPS, we are eager to share what we have learned here for the benefit of other communities within Kentucky and nationwide. Would you like to learn more about CHAMPS? Currently, additional information is available on the Kentucky Division of Emergency Management's website at www.kyem.ky.gov. To those within the Commonwealth, CHAMPS will be accessible via Kentucky Division of Emergency Management's SharePoint site. Module tutorials are currently under production and are set to be released late 2013.